Welcome to this week's episode of Appa and Chino, Life on Shuffle. I'm Appa.
And I'm Chino.
This week we're going to break down a conversation that we've been talking about and we want to get into. Most dads usually have hard conversations all throughout life with their sons about money, about finances, teaching them how to invest. And usually they take the angle with their daughters regarding saving and not spending. But we're going to flip that around today because we're going to have real conversations about finances and money from a dad to a daughter. So let's dive into it.
So, Dad, one of my first questions that I want to ask you is what did your parents teach you growing up about finances?
Absolutely nothing. No, seriously. My mom was really good with finances. You know, she
Okay.
raised 7 kids by herself as a single parent. Of course, we had help from family, but she knew how to stretch a dollar. And so, what I learned about finances was how to really stretch a dollar. Um, I was actually the one that actually sat down and she showed me because she didn't want to do all the adding and subtracting and all that kind of good stuff because, you know, it wasn't something that she was really good at. So I kept the books as a little kid. Like I did her bill book and she, told me what to write down. I did all the writing, all the bills down. I did the adding and the subtracting. And I really learned how to keep a budget by doing that practice with my mom at like a very early age. So she really knew how to stretch a dollar.
Do you think she gave you like any tips, any practical tips on how to stretch a dollar that you gained?
I can't say practical tips. It was more so about prioritizing.
Okay.
So, like, real talk, real talk. Like, sometimes the light bill will be due, but then you had school clothes that need to be bought too. So, my mom knew how to, pay a little bit over here, but also do something over there. So, she
Okay.
knew how to prioritize. I think if anything I was taught that was a tip or trick that was really good is really how to prioritize what was important. And then too, like one of the things that she showed me too, like even in the bills that she had, she also wanted to ensure that she was giving. So even though she didn't have a lot, I saw the principle of sowing and reaping a lot in what she did as well
As in
because
tithe?
yeah, tithe and just simply helping others as
Okay.
well. Yeah, so that was really strong for her. So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
You talked about my mom and what I saw as a kid. Tell me, what did you see growing up as a kid? Like, what were some of the things that you picked up on? What are some of the things that you gleaned or you thought you knew?
That is a very interesting question that is making me really go back and think. When I was a kid, you started off my journey of learning about finances by giving us like an allowance, or we do chores and we might get like $20 or so from doing our chores, and it's like how are you going to use your money? And so I think that was like the small kind of input when it comes to finances. But honestly,
Hmm.
I really don't remember. I really, really, really don't remember. I just know everything kind of really hit me when I moved to college and I was in Clinton by myself. But before then, I kind of was always on the cheaper side of things and like kind of penny pinching. And so it wasn't just too much that I feel like it was just in me to kind of be more on the cheaper side than just spending all the
Saving.
time. Saving on the saving side.
You know what I remember?
What do you remember?
Do you remember when we would go into the store and I would make you spend your own money on something? Like we would get to the counter,
And I
they
say,
would
put
ring
it
it up,
back. Put it back.
and we
I
would
don't
get
want
there,
it.
and you would literally stand there and like before if I wasn't paying for it,
Yeah.
you would tell them people to put that.
Back. Put it back. I don't want it no
What was
more.
that about? Like what was going on with you thinking, what you're thinking about those situations where you would like say like, nah, you'll walk out the store without whatever it is that you was trying to get because you didn't want to spend your own money for it.
For one, it wasn't needed. It was something that I wanted, but it wasn't something that I needed. And then getting more bang for my buck. So it's like if I spend it probably wasn't that expensive, but if I spend $45 on this one item when I can go to probably, let's just say, Walmart, for example, and get 10 things, then I'm going to put this back. I'm going to opt out and I'm going to go with something where I can get more items.
You were really frugal. Like you've always been that way. Like you very, very, very frugal with your money. Like where did you get that from?
I guess it was installed in me. I guess I get it from you guys. I mean, because we had conversations, but it wasn't like deep or hardcore conversations. Like I remember going to Picayune with G-Mom, hustling, trying to make me some money
Tell me about that.
just to spend.
Tell me about that. What did that look like as a kid going to Gmon? Because the audience doesn't know.
So that story, I feel like I was probably about 14, 15 around that time, or even younger.
I think it was younger.
Yeah, I might have been younger. And I would go to my aunt's every summer in Picayune, and I would be with my grandmother. And so my grandmother cooks, and she cooks amazingly, and it's so good. And so one of her things though that we would do in the summer was cook hot dogs and chili, and then you have some chips and stuff on the side. And so I had this bright idea that, gee, I want you to cook and I get all the money from it because it's my idea. But I want you to be the chef. And so because my grandma is just the amazing person that she is, she's like, okay, Lexi, we're going to do it. We're going to go to the store. We're going to get all the items. You plan it out. You figure out what's going to be on the list. So we sold candy. We sold pops. It's summertime. All the kids are out of school. And I knew a good amount of the kids at the time because the area that they lived, it was a lot of kids my age around that, in that area. And so yeah, so me and G Mom, we get everything that we need together. And so we plan out the day. She goes to work and gets to cooking, and then she has like 7 kids. And so it's a lot of people to spread the word around the small area of Picayune. And so everybody started spreading the word that G's gonna be cooking. She's selling plates for probably about $7. And so we end up doing it that day, and I mean we were packed. Like from the time we opened and then to the time we said we weren't like selling any more plates, people were just flowing in, just coming. And I think G let me keep all of the money. Like seriously.
More than likely, she did.
Seriously, and she got the
That is
change.
a shame.
It is. That is a shame, but I didn't know no better back
So
then.
where did you learn like that entrepreneurial spirit? Like where did that come from? Like to you to want to be an entrepreneur? Because that's basically what you described at a young age.
Yeah, I've always wanted my own. It's just something about being able to say, I got it, and I can take care of it, and not having to depend on somebody else. That's always been something that has mattered to me. Being able to be financially independent and not have to rely on somebody else.
You think that was learned from us, from me as a dad to you, or
Probably so. Looking up to you and you being able to say, I got it. And even when you did probably have hard times, you would say, like, hey, I've been spending a lot of money right now. We need to slow down. I'm not going to be able to get this or do this. But I didn't have to go without, the lights being off, or I didn't have to endure that struggle. And so I just kind of realized the importance of making sure bills were covered first before outside activities and extra wants.
hmm cool. So you said a lot about growing up and that entrepreneur spirit of doing that with G, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you transition that same thing into life today?
That is hard. right now because all the prices have went up. Of course, I have two toddlers and their stuff is extremely expensive. And so I find myself having to really juggle down on my budget. I feel like the most important thing for me right now is my budget because I'm not working in a job where I could be making the maximum amount of money. Right now, I'm choosing to stay home, pursue another career, and trying to grow in a different career path. And so right now, I'm having to sit back and really strategically budget and look at my books and say, this is what I can spend, and I can't spend, this extra amount. I have to save it. So I'm having to be really strict on myself.
Yeah. And you mentioned budget, and I'm asking a lot of questions. You hadn't got a chance to ask me any yet, but you mentioned budget, and a lot of people don't know what budgeting is. Like, what does that look like for you, and what have you been taught about budgeting?
Okay. So budgeting for me is more so of looking at my account and saying, this is a must have. So I have my must haves, I have my savings, and I have my debts. And in those categories, I kind of break it down further. But in my must haves, that's more of like my car note, my insurance, my health insurance that I have to pay, daycare that I have to pay. So I must pay that. That's a must. And then my debt. So that's going to be my credit card. That's going to be my loans that I need to pay. Anything that is kind of something that can go to collections and build up and gain interest and it hurt me over time. So I have my debt, and then my savings is my kids' savings, what I want to put into their bank accounts just for it to be growing in the case of emergency, in the case of need. I have my own personal little savings account, and then you have an emergency account. And even if it's like $5 or $10 in there, it's something rather than nothing. And so
You're missing one, and it's wants.
my wants, yes. I haven't really been worried about my wants lately. But yes, my wants kind of come after my savings and my debt. So once I place a certain amount in my debt or paying my debt off and putting a small amount in my savings just to make sure that it's growing, then I look at my wants and see what kind of activities I might want to do for the month, what kind of things I might want to do extra for the kids that I can spend, or if I got a trip coming up, something in that nature, that would be my wants.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And that was taught by you.
That was taught by me?
You taught me all of that.
Okay.
You taught me all of that.
Cool.
And so one of the things that I would like to ask you is, if you were my age today, what would be the very first thing you would do financially?
Your age today, like 25.
25.
Yeah, I would definitely open up a money market account, an investment account, something simple. And people talk about 401ks and this and this and that, but like there's a couple what's called ETFs, and those are funds that you can actually put money in. I would dedicate a certain amount to go into an ETF, something as simple as VOO, QQQ. You can do the SPY. There's several of them that's super easy. I would put it in there and I would forget it. I think that is the easiest way to build wealth over time. I put a dedicated amount, whether it's once a week, every 2 weeks, once a month, whatever your rhythm is, and just put it in there and forget about it.
For the audience, can you define what money market account means?
Yeah. The money market account is a financial investment account. And you can open those up with any of the, the financial companies like Vanguard, Fidelity, and there's a host of many, many more. What's one thing about money that I taught you that actually sticks out to you right now?
That's paying my debt off before tapping into my savings. Because once you're debt free, that weight, like when I complete a credit card and I don't have to worry about that credit card no more, That feels like freedom. Oh my goodness. It's a different type of freedom. So I think that was like one of the biggest lessons that you taught me and one of the most crucial because it really does like play a factor when it comes to good credit, what you're allowed to get, what you're told no to. Because I want to have my own. I want to have my own house, you know? And so just that factor of paying attention to your debt when it's due or even having the purpose of a credit card and
So
why it's so important
I was
still, even though you have to be careful, a credit card is still important. And so I think that those two things are like something that you taught me that was very, very important.
credit card debt. Let me tell you a story about credit card and me and mom in our college days. When we first came on to college, credit cards was like something that was kind of new and hot.
Mm-hmm.
So when you walked on college, and I think they prevented this now, thank God, but like there would be people on campus with little forms you could sign up to get credit cards
I didn't know that.
on college. Like we didn't
On
have
college.
no money. Of course, everybody
Need a
that
credit
I
card.
knew that was signing up for credit, and they gave you free stuff. They gave you T-shirts and this and that. And so we get a credit card, $500, $1,000 limit, da da da. We had no money, so we go run up this credit card, accumulate all this debt, and then the impact of that is messing up your credit, so that you go to try to get something. I didn't know. I just knew I needed to eat and buy
Yeah.
groceries or get gas. And so one of the biggest things that I taught you and your brother, I didn't allow y'all to get credit cards until you got to
To a
college.
certain age.
Yeah, really, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and we had to talk about what all it meant to have that responsibility on the card and the person, and how you can maximize that and use it to your advantage and things like that. So what are some of the things you learn about a credit card that you want to share with another young girl?
Okay, so an important factor too that I wanted to add was you were also over the credit card because you could still see what I purchased and all of that, right?
So yeah, so one of the things I did, and this is probably something that may help some dads, like I got a credit card.
Right,
I put you as an authorized user, and I did it early too, so that way it can start help building your credit.
right,
And of course, I made sure I took care of paying for it. And I actually wouldn't even hardly use that card. Just put a little something on it, pay a little something every month, and or pay it out, keep it paid off. And that way, in your teen years, you had started building credit. So when
right,
you got into your 20s, when you walked into the bank and you wanted to buy a car, I had to use my name. Like my relationship with the banker, but your credit was able to stand for itself. Like and plus you had to have a job, but you was able to walk in the bank and you bought your own car. Like it's in your name,
right.
basically.
Yeah.
Because we had a discussion the other day, because you back in school and you like, the car note, and you like, it's in your name. I said, no, the car is not in my name. The car is in your name.
I know. I
Because
know.
like you did the right thing. You walked through the process. You kept up with what you would put on it. You would pay it off at the end of the month. We talked about how important that was. We talked about interest rates and all that kind of good stuff. So that's what I did to set you and your brother up for success.
Right.
And then another tip and strategy, say tips and tricks as a father to a daughter, is that I would go to the bank and I would take $500 or $1,000 or whatever the case may be, and I'll get a loan for you. We would not.
About that same amount almost, right?
Yeah, for that same
500,000.
amount. Like I would take $500 and get a secured loan, and then I would put the money that they would give me against that loan into a bank account in your name. I would just set it up for it to be paid out of that bank account back toward that loan every month. So if you borrowed $500 and the loan payment was $25 a month, you would take that $500 the bank gave you against your own money, put it in a
Right.
bank account, and then say draft the payment out of that every month.
Right.
And it shows you having a payment history with the bank over time. did that several times just to build your credit in another way. Very simple, easy
Right.
tip and trick that a dad could do for their daughter as
And
well.
that was one of the things that I was gonna say I learned from you. What I started doing was paying attention to that, as well as when it came to my credit card. I would, because in order for it to grow, you do have to, spend a little bit. So maybe like take gas and probably put like $80 in gas for the month and place those $80 back on the card at the end of the month. So I would do like simple things, but I would just keep an eye on it and be very mindful of what I was spending on my credit card. So for a person that's struggling, like they really not making a lot of money, they don't have a great job right now, they do have a family to provide for. What are some of the tips that do you know any tips to kind of get them out of that hole at least? Get them out of that hole on the right track to start to one day be able to save or grow.
One of the ways I think that can really help family is for them to have a real talk and a real conversation to know where they stand.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that's one of the big things because I sit down at the end of the year and I try to set the year in
Oh, right.
advance so we can look at, okay, this is what we've been doing. This is what money we have coming in. These are our debts, these are our wants. These are the things we want to do in the next upcoming year. These are the areas that I want to save. So we look at those needs, those wants, those debts, those investments
Even goals.
and even goals. We talk about goals in that session. We sit down as a family and do every year. So I think for a person, their best thing is to really, because one of the things that people don't want to do a lot of times,
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to know.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to know what's on their credit report and what's holding them back. They don't want to know how much money is going out and what they spending because they know if they know that, I feel like, because I do it sometimes myself, to be honest, like I'm gonna have to stop going out eating
And
out,
it
or I'm gonna
feels
have to,
heavy
yeah,
too.
yeah.
The weight of it.
The weight of it is heavy. I remember the first time you guys sat down and we did this.
Mm-hmm.
It
It
was
tore the whole room up.
it tore. You guys was so uncomfortable. Like you guys were fussing and mad with me, and like
You
I
just
didn't
giving us the
spend this. Like
directions.
I just told you to write this stuff down. Look at this stuff. How we gonna fix it? You got this much money that you got to work with. Now look at this and how you gonna prioritize that. And a lot of people honestly don't want to do the work. And so you got to really want to do the work if you're going to come out of the situations in order to get better. So what is one of the dumbest money decisions that you've ever made in your early years or in your 20s? What is something you like, if I could go back and change this, I probably would not do it.
I wouldn't have got my own apartment. When I was in Clinton, I should have stayed at that dorm and I should have lived in the dorm for my whole 4 years and I should have saved my money and not got an apartment. I think that was it was kind of dumb on my part, and I would say it was dumb because I also was taking out loans to help me pay for my apartment, and now that kind of has me in a hole. And so for me, I would have just been patient. I would have waited, and I wouldn't have to worry about this extra loan amount that was unnecessary. So that was one of the dumbest decisions I've
Yeah.
made.
Can you elaborate, because we went back and forth on this apartment
Mhm.
and me telling you my thoughts on it. Like
Yeah.
can you help
Elaborate? Of course.
can you help
Of course.
the
Of
fathers
course.
that's the daughters that's making that decision
Yes.
on campus,
Yes.
and why, and how we our
Mhm.
experience with that?
So, I did not want to stay in a dorm with roaches, and I didn't want to be cleaning up after somebody else's child. They got hair everywhere. We have women problems. You're seeing that the floor is all yucky and muddy, and I'm not that type of person. And then I just couldn't. I didn't have my own space. I did, but I didn't.
You had your own dorm room,
I did not
but that was
like
your
they
own
knocking on the
space.
door like, can you turn your music down? Like, I don't know. It was like I just couldn't. I just wasn't able to just be me. Then sharing also laundry, having to share and wait and cat hair on my clothes and stuff. It was just like an environment where I was like, okay, can I please have my own space in
But
my own
then,
apartment?
but
Cause
then weighing that those experiences are real and they're
mhm
valid.
mhm.
But looking at what it took for you to get out of the dorm into the apartment, does when you put it on the
When it
scale?
comes to life experiences, I would do it all over again. But
Okay.
when it comes to finances, don't do that. And so was it worth it? No.
Okay.
So I could have survived. I could have handled living in a dorm 2 more years, having a roommate, cleaning after people that I didn't want to clean after. I could have dealt with it. It was not unlivable. I could have, just did what I needed to do just to be in a better position. When it came to my apartment, you're still having to worry about paying your monthly bill every month on top, paying rent on top of electricity bill, on top of water bill, on top of groceries, as well as internet, because if you're in school you need some type of Wi-Fi, some type of internet connection. And so instead of having to work to pay that and then using loan money to also pay my rent, I could have been working, living in a dorm, and having that extra money just coming into me and using it for what I need to use. Now I have a good amount of debt that I have to pay off, and plus I'm going back to school. In grad school, you don't really get a lot of help. You don't really get anything offered to you except the loan. And so when you look, what I learned from you is you have to look into the future. You can't just look at the now and what's going on now and make decisions based off of what you see presented in front of you. You have to also look into the future and say, what's going to be best for me, and how will it put me in a difficult situation in the future, or will it put me ahead? And I would say having an apartment too early and you can't really cover it, that's not going to put you ahead. It's going to kind of set you back. And it's not going to be terrible. It's just something that you don't want to have to worry about, especially when life start hitting you hard, you have emergencies, you have a family. It's just best to not have to worry about that extra weight. If you could leave the next generation with one piece of financial wisdom, what would it be?
Think about someone other than yourself. It don't sound like that's probably financial wisdom, but for me personally, I think a lot of my blessings have come because I haven't been trying to accumulate just for me. Like I understand that what I do, how I do, and what I need to do as it relates to finances, um, I do it for others. And I think because of that, I think I keep getting blessed by it. I keep getting favor as a result of it. And there's a principle called sowing and reaping. And I think that is vitally important and to getting to where you want to be at financially. Um, the more I give, it feels like the more I get.
Bless.
And I know that that's probably not the answer, that you probably was expecting. Because I can go down the line and be like, save and invest and
Right.
all that kind of good stuff. But it's so centered around you. And I'm not saying that any of those things are wrong. I think you ought to do those in addition to. But I think you ought to find something other than yourself
Right.
and be a blessing and be able to give back to that and
I
make an
agree.
impact.
I agree. I haven't been able to be a blessing as much as I would like, but I do try to include tithing into my bills. And I feel like just by tithing and being consistent and paying my tithes, I see God blessing me. Not wanting to just keep it or be mad because I got a tithe. Like it's not like He's making me do it, but just by, you know, placing my tithe into the offering or doing my tithe and offering, I just feel like I've been noticing the blessings over my life even if it's not financially, it's just a covering over my life that I feel like God is honoring.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like prioritizing and like what do you value most and what are you putting first? Is it yourself? Is it God? Is it others? You know, what is that? And I think that that's tied to financial freedom as well.
Before we close out, I would like to ask you about this one comment that our generation is very controversial. Should we live for the moment and spend while we alive, or do we take that risk and save up and you might not be able to live
Enjoy
and
it.
yeah, enjoy it?
Yeah, I I've yeah, this is probably just going on how I feel. I think you ought to have balance. I think you ought to enjoy life, and I think I've shared this before in one of the other podcasts. Like I was so serious growing
Mm-hmm.
up. Like I was so uptight, so serious because I wanted to be somewhere in life. I think you got to slow down enough to enjoy it and slow up fast enough to achieve it. So you got to do both at the same time, and that's why I said I think it takes balance, because I think um, you ought to save, you ought to invest, you should use those resources that
Mm-hmm.
you have in order to improve your life financially. But I think you also ought to take time to enjoy it.
Right.
I think rest and enjoyment, God created it for a reason, so you can't do one more than the other, in my opinion, or you
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't do one more than the other. I think you got to create balance in
It's
it.
equally
You
important.
got to create the balance in it, and I think that's probably one of the secrets to a happy life too, an enjoyable life, is when you create balance in both. And I work on that a lot these days. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dad. I gained a lot of useful information. I hope that the audience did as well. I pray that y'all had some good tips and good things to piggyback off of and look into. I'm glad that y'all tuned into this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, have a great one.
Yeah. Thanks for joining.
Appa Chino.